Hi, everybody. Todd Nash from Senate District 29. Um, we're ending week 7 here, and I'm going to start with an update on a bill that's appropriate, Senate Bill 777, and that was the wolf compensation bill. We've had quite a lot of work on that, made a few small adjustments and amendments over time, and we expect that to have a work session next week. And I really appreciate everybody that's worked on that. Today, there were several of my Democrat colleagues that wanted to sign on to it. And there's been a ton of people that did some excellent work on this bill, and really appreciate it. It looks like we're going to get across the finish line. I think it has support to get through the entirety of the Senate. List for bad bills this session, and it's not always easy to bear through that for those colleagues that are supported so heavily by those environmental community activists, but this was the right thing to do. They know it, and we presented it well. So again, thank you. Another one that a lot of people have questions on is 769, and that's the hound dog bill that allowed us to pursue cougars with hound dogs in a per county vote. And that one is stumbling. I'll be straight up honest with you. I'm not sure we're going to get that across the finish line. Continue to do work on it. I'm fearful that in order to get it to where we would pass a bill, that we may have to make too many concessions to make it palatable. So I'm apprehensive at this point. I'm so proud of the people from all over the state that showed up, testified, submitted letters. You deserved a win, and it's on me that we didn't get it. Ultimately, I'm the one that's here. I sponsored the bill, and if it doesn't get through, it's on me. So I accept that, and I apologize for that. I'm going to start talking about some of the bills that moved through this week. Senator Broadman, senator from the Bend area, had just a real simple fix on a bill, 769, that allowed counties and cities to work together in those areas that lay between the two. And we see that complexity sometimes. You would think that there would already be a legal avenue to cooperatively work together, but there really wasn't. And so in those urban growth areas, a lot of times it's not clear on who has the lead, and certainly saw that in my own community here recently. So I was one of the sponsors on that bill, and we got that passed out of the floor here today. And so that was a good little win. Senate Bill 771, the rodeo bill, many of you testified on that in support, and that would bring some money back to rural areas. And I'm always going to support those sort of things. And I know some people say they don't want their tax dollars being spent on rodeos, and I understand that. This money's going to get spent one way or another. And so that money that's dedicated to Business Oregon, if we can get our share of it back in our rural communities, I support that. This was a good bill, and it has a ton of support, and really glad for all the people that showed up and worked on that. I saw one ad on social media from Eastern Oregon Livestock Show, and the young ladies touting the support of that. And so congratulations to all of you that worked on that. SCR 12 and 13, I ended up having my first carry on the floor of the Senate with SCR 13, and that was the T-bone steak. And so that ended up passing out 30-0. And so it'll move over to the House. likely the T-bone is going to be our state steak. And they had a little fun with me. Your first carry on the floor of the Senate, the senior members, they tend to pick on you a little bit, ask you a series of really silly questions, and they peppered me and grilled me there for several minutes, and had a good show of it. And but in the end, voted it out, and I appreciate the support for that. And I really want to acknowledge the Oregon Cattle Women's Association for their support. They do a great job of supporting beef and advocating for cattlemen and cattlewomen all over the state. And this was really to help them to highlight beef in a way that would be recognized here at our state capitol. So fun bill, and got that across the finish line. It's going to go over to the House now, and I think it has a clear pathway there. Robin Church, a long-serving clerk in Union County, and that was SCR 12. And I was able to speak on the Senate floor a little bit about Robin, her dedication to service, and what a wonderful commitment to Union County. For those of you that don't know, the clerk's job in our county is one of the most difficult, challenging, technical jobs there are. And to have full faith and confidence in the voting and all the record keeping that they do, it's a tremendous value. And for Robin to be recognized, she was the president of the State Clerks Association for a time, and served very well there in Union County. So glad to recognize her, and congratulations. That'll move on to the House as well, and I don't see any blockades in the way of that. Well, Memorial Hospital stopped by and visited, and I had a number of visitors from the area, but good to see everybody that comes by, and it was great to see some folks from home. The landowner preference tag program, that goes back to 1981, and it's had a sunset every 4 years, and I carried that on the Senate floor today. That was wonderful to be able to do that. I want to acknowledge one individual that worked on that, but way back then, Rod Childers. He was instrumental in getting that program going, and I called Rod this morning and said, I'm going to carry that on the Senate floor, and we put it into permanent statute. Not permanent yet. It still has to go to the House as well, but I think it is also going to have a clear pathway, and no more sunsets, no more wondering if it's going to be there for us into the future. We'll have that program there, and thanks to Rod for creating that and doing the heavy lifting long ago. It's been adapted and changed over time, and now it's time to make it permanent. We have some other bills that are moving along, and there's a lot of them. We have three education bills coming up on Monday. My chief of staff, and if I haven't mentioned my chief of staff, failure on me, Jake Pelroy does a fantastic job. These were really his passion. They have to do with ag education, getting college credit for some of those things, a pathway into the ag workforce. And those are Senate bills 784, 785, and 786, if you want to look those up. Jake will be speaking to those on Monday morning. We are actually split between committees, and I ended up with more than what I could talk to that morning, and Jake will do a fantastic job. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention Vicki Olson here too. And Vicki, she takes care of everything organizational here in this office, including my scheduling. And so if you get a hold of my office, it's most likely going to be Vicki. She does a fantastic job of laying everything out ahead of me. and I couldn't do this job without the two of them. And I've told people repeatedly I have the best staff in the building, and I truly believe that, and others agree. Um, SGR 30, I mentioned that before, and really one of my top priorities. It's been scheduled out for um, April 2nd, and that would change the initiative petition system that we have now, make it a little tougher, have to go out into each of the congressional districts and get the signatures. It ups the threshold just a little bit on the number of signatures, and some of those bad ballot measures that came down long ago, should we have had this at the time, we might not have got those ballots in front of us. Most recently, Measure 110 that decriminalized drugs and then had to be readdressed. And so there's an appetite to do this here in the building, and I've had some Democrats sign on to that bill, and a bunch of Republicans. So it has great momentum. There is a companion bill to it on the House side, HJR 11. That has a hearing on Monday, and I'm going to go over there, be one of the first ones to testify on that. Looking forward to that, and hopefully we get that across the line. Really excited about that. On Tuesday next week, there's a work session on the agri-stress helpline, the $2 million we're asking for to fund that in perpetuity. There's an air ambulance bill, 778, that's going to come up for a hearing. Right now, the air ambulance systems aren't fully reimbursed for some of their services. We want to make sure that they stay healthy. In the rural parts of Oregon, we really rely on those air services, those helicopters, to get in some of those tough places to be, and so we want to be able to support them the best we can, and I was glad to advocate for this bill. Another one that's going to be coming up next week is 772, and that goes to health workers there for tribes. And so within my district, I have the Warm Springs tribe, I have the Confederated tribe of the Umatilla, and really proud to represent them. And so if a tribal member goes to college and then comes back and works in that area, it's going to help to support. It's an incentive program to support that. We think it's a really good program. We have that for rural healthcare workers. This is just kind of a similar thing for those that are living on those Indian reservations. So really, really happy to support that bill. Another bill coming up next week is 1035, and that one comes to us from Union County, and it's one of the priorities that came out of some of the counties over there. During fire season, having enough fuel capacity for all the air support has been a challenge. And so this is a bill that is really directed at making sure we have fuel capacity enough so that when we have those fire events, we have enough fuel to keep those craft in the air. We have come extremely close to running out, and so we don't want that to happen. There's a way to head that off, and thanks to Commissioner Anders for taking up the charge on that and getting that heightened, and glad to get a hearing on that. One of the last ones that I'll mention here is home health care. There was a group that came to me about some circumstances that took place where they were taking care of some severely disabled family members and friends and clients. And because of circumstances, they were either going to cut off funding, move them to a different home where maybe they wouldn't be as well cared for. Anyway, it's a technical fix within that. I told them I would be glad to take that bill up, and so that Senate Bill 1073. Lastly, and it's a lot, we're getting really busy down here, and but the last one I'm going to mention, and we have a hearing scheduled for next week, is lumber grading. And in these areas where we've lost infrastructure for large sawmills, we have some small sawmills, and even some that are independently owned or family owned or individually owned. Um, and this idea came to me from our building codes person in Wallowa County, Ken Hall, who's passed away since. But he said, some of the lumber that's being milled by these small sawmills is wildly better than what's actually being put into construction. It's a shame that we couldn't utilize that wood for construction within our own community. And I said, well, let me look into that. And so both of us did. Wisconsin had a program already, and there is a way to get certified and be able to use these for home structures. And so we've done quite a lot of work on that. We think OSU is going to be the partner in that and their extension program to help us get certified. And we appreciate their work and cooperation here. But that bill is going to be coming up next week. And that also was one of the priorities from Eastern Oregon Counties Association. But I really want to thank Ken Hall for bringing that to my attention. And if his family is listening, what a stellar individual he was. I had the opportunity to be over building codes as a county commissioner, and Ken was so well respected and so well liked. And this will be his bill and his victory. Well, with that, I'm going to wrap this up. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate all your support out there, and please come see me if you have opportunity. Thank you.